You know, it's almost like Forrest Gump with a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get.
You certainly don't, and you can see the flags just kind of wafting there in the breeze as the Blue Jays take the field. And let's take a look at how Robin is going to line up our Sox for the game tonight. Adam Eaton's going to lead it off with Melky Cabrera in the 2 spot. Then it's Jose Abreu, who has crushed R.A. Dickey over the course of his brief career. Adam LaRoche, the DH. Alexi Ramirez at shortstop. J.B. Shuck is in right field. Gordon Beckham, who had a spectacular night defensively last night, is at third. Tyler Flowers behind the plate. And Carlos Sanchez playing second base and hitting 9th. The defense and how they'll line up behind R.A. Dickey, it's Valencia, Pilar, and Colabello in the outfield with Donaldson, Reyes, Tollison, and Encarnacion in the infield. Josh Thole getting the nod behind the plate because R.A. Dickey is on the hill. And Thole caught him in his Cy Young Award year with the Mets. He's very familiar with them. As you can see, there are the numbers. They're not pretty. The ERA just under 5.5. This his 10th start of the year. He's got 1 complete game. But opponents hitting just .245. And so last time out, he struck out 7 men. He had been really struggling. In his previous 4 starts, he had only struck out 3 men. But he felt that it was a mechanical flaw that he ironed out in the bullpen. So we'll see how that plays out here this evening. The umpires for the game tonight. Paul Emmel is behind the plate. Jordan Baker, the king-size umpire, is at first base. Jerry Meals, the crew chief, is at second. And Andy Fletcher is at third. So as Josh Thole gets ready to throw the ball down to second base, he's got his work cut out for him. When the knuckleball is right, it's very difficult not only to hit, but very difficult to catch. And as they throw the ball around the infield, that means that we're ready to play baseball, and I'm ready to turn it over to my play-by-play partner, Chuck Swirsky.
All right, Stephen, thank you. As the White Sox check it in, they've lost 3 in a row, 19-23 overall, 7-13 on the road. They're 8 out in the Central. As R.A. Dickey, at the ripe old age of 40, broke in 2001 with Rangers in the first pitch of the ball game, and that knuckler over the plate for strike 1. Steve mentioned R.A. Dickey had a brilliant season, that Cy Young year back in 2012, where he won 20 ball games. In his 3rd season with the Jays, swing and a miss by Eaton. Adam Eaton went 0 for 4 last night. He's 3 for his last 16.
And R.A. Dickey these days is throwing the knuckleball a lot more slowly than he used to. And if he has to throw a fastball, he usually gets torched.
So how fast, Steve, is a knuckleball? I mean, give us a range, so to speak.
Well, that last one was 76 miles an hour, and I guess he can throw it anywhere from 72 to probably 78 if he's throwing a good knuckleball. And as you can see, that one didn't tumble. It floated, and when it floats, Chuck, it's almost impossible to hit. Take a look at the movement on this one. It dives at the last minute. Adam goes out to get it. So think about a butterfly fluttering up there, and you're trying to catch it with a bat. Pretty difficult to do.
Cabrera, who was a former teammate of Dickey here in Toronto for a couple of years. Cabrera lifetime against R.A. is 4 of 12. Cabrera went 1 for 3 last night. He's 1 for his last 11. And it's a 2-0 count on Melky.
You have to hope to get ahead of R.A., which is what Melky has, and I'll tell you why. Because when he has to throw a fastball, and he usually only throws it when he's behind in the count, hitters this year are hitting .462.
Wow.
So if you get him in the position where he's got to come to you with the fastball, well, the hitter's then in command.
Because as a fan, Steve, I've seen games against knuckleball pitchers. As a fan, you just want to think, hey, I can do this. I'll grab a bat and go up there.
It seems pretty easy because the ball is moving so slowly.
It's a well-hit ball, but moving over to his right, the center fielder Pilar, and he takes it, camps under it. We've got 2 out.
Tonight's picks to click. Hawk/Chuck.
Yes.
Well, they want Adam Eaton.
I'm channeling Hawk right now.
And he's done a great job of it this year. And Melky Cabrera is my pick. I'm really behind. And then it's Alexi Ramirez for the Crew. So, unfortunately, we did not have a chance to see them take their first at bat before we made our picks.
Yes.
As becoming obvious.
We're in the top of the first. You're already behind, Steve.
It is pretty standard stuff.
Here's Jose. A 1-1 count with 2 out in the top of the first. Again, this Chuck Swirsky, Steve Stone, of course, filling in for the Hawk. And I know he's watching. We wish him all the best. He'll be back for the Tigers series in a week and a half. Foul tip. 1-2. Jose went 0 for 3 last night. 7 overs, 23 RBIs, batting .277.
But he's got a couple of home runs against R.A. Dickey. And so if Dickey throws one that tumbles, Jose's got a pretty good shot at it.
In fact, his only hits against R.A. have come from the long ball. Swing and a miss. And for R.A. Dickey, 3 up, 3 down. We go to the bottom of the first in a moment right here from Toronto.
Off with Josh Donaldson having a good year hitting second. Then it's Bautista, Encarnacion, Palabello, Danny Valencia, who's a specialist against left-hand pitchers, got a 7-game hitting streak. Kevin Pillar, Steve Collison, and Josh Tolley rounding it out. The defense and out in the lineup behind Johnny Danks left to right. It's Cabrera, Eaton, and Shuck in the outfield with Beckham, Ramirez, Sanchez, and Abreu in the infield. Tyler Flowers gets a nod behind the plate, and Johnny Danks on the hill. John has never had a great deal of luck with these Blue Jays, hoping to turn it around here tonight. You look at the season record. His 9th start. Opponent's hitting .272, which is a high number.
So Jose Reyes leading off for the Jays. He went 1 of 4 last night, returning after cracking a rib in late April. Led off the ball game last night with a double. 1-1 count. What have you seen out of Danks this year, Steve?
When he keeps the changeup down and stays away from the right-handers, he gets them out. When he gets a changeup up, he gets hurt. And what he has to do, Chuck, is to make a changeup more effective away, you have to establish that cutter inside to the right-handers. If you just get them looking outside, then they're going to reach out and get it. And John has said that he's had some problems with location. If that happens tonight, this is a team that hits lefties too well. You can't get away if you're not throwing strikes against this team in this park.
Fouled off to the right. It's going to make about the 5th row down the line. So in order for Danks to be successful, get ahead of the hitters, and you can say that about a lot of pitchers, but in this case with a right-handed lineup for Toronto, and they've got some big bats, as you mentioned.
Yeah, in order to be successful, I think he has to establish the inside part of the plate with his cutter, and then he can go away. If he keeps the changeup down, he usually has no problem. That has been a problem, however, this year.
3-2 delivery. Swing and a miss. That's going to bring on Donaldson, who had a monster game last night, went 2 of 3.
That one on the outer third, it was down, and Reyes, as Chuck told you, just coming back, so his stroke really isn't honed from either side of the plate at this point. They're just happy to see him back in the lineup.
Donaldson hit his 10th homer last night. He also scored 3 runs. He's tied for first in the American League with runs scored, 6th in the American League in homers with 10. And there's a deep drop to left field, and this is out of here. That was tagged.
Yeah, there's an example of a first ball fastball that was up. Johnny was trying to get it inside, but he couldn't quite get it there. And Josh Donaldson, who is one of those guys that torches left-handers, has done it again. He's driven in 30 with his 11th home run. And what a deal they made with Oakland to get this guy. He's one of the best in the business at a position that's tough to find. Power hitting third basemen who can field are very rare, and Josh Donaldson is one of those guys.
Jose Bautista at the plate returning. He's had a very tender shoulder. Took a cortisone shot the other day. 7 homers, 25 RBIs, batting only .215. They're glad to have him back in the fold.
Well, you look at what he did last year. We showed you in the opening of the game, 35 home runs, drove in 103. Those are big numbers.
5-time All-Star.
Bautista's one of those guys where if you get careless with a fastball anywhere, it really doesn't matter where it is, he can hit it a long way.
Slap foul.
Talking with John Gibbons, he told me that for whatever reason, and he has no idea what it is, roof open, roof closed, it doesn't matter. This year, this has been as lively a park as he's ever seen. This is his second tour of managing with the Blue Jays. As you look at John, a terrific guy. He's done a nice job here. But there's a lot of people who figure that his job might be on the line, as all managers are, with teams that have expectations and don't live up to them. They're sitting in last place, but they're only 3.5 games back.
Fouled off again down the left field line. I want to talk about, during our broadcast, Steve, about this crazy American League East. We're going to be in Baltimore for a doubleheader on Thursday, but you got Tampa, you got the Yankees. I mean, from one day to the next, it fluctuates about who's going to seize control of this division.
Literally, you can flip a coin, because where it is today, 25% of the way through the season, has no bearing on what's going to happen here. Nobody thought Tampa Bay would be there. The Yankees, thought to have no pitching, are there a half game back. Baltimore is starting to play like they can. Everybody picked Boston. This Toronto team is pretty good.
Lazy fly ball to right. We got 2 out here in the bottom of the first. Edwin Encarnacion went 0 for 3 last night, 3rd in the American League in homers with 12. He has 32 RBIs, 5th in the league. Jays can put some runs on the board.
He was originally selected by the Texas Rangers in the 9th round of the year 2000. So it took him a few different teams to really get established. We might remember him with Cincinnati, but it wasn't until he came north of the border and put on that Blue Jays uniform that he became a huge run producer.
0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out, but Donaldson with a solo blast, giving the Jays a 1-0 lead. We go the second in just a moment. As LaRoche will step in, 0 for 3 last night, 2 for his last 25. R.A. Dickey delivers the pitch.
Adam, have seen him a lot. 17 times to be exact. Hitting 176. So he's seen him. He's hit a home run against him, but he hasn't particularly liked what he's seen. Of course, he faced him when Dickey was consistently very good.
3-0 count now. Now, what do you do here, Steve? If
you turn him loose because you just might get the only fastball you'll see. And there it was. It was up on the inner portion. Now we'll see if he comes back with another. Another fastball. Borderline, but he got the call. And there you see the Xfinity pitch tracks.
So Dickey winds, delivers, and that ball is hit in the right center. Pilar cuts it off, and the White Sox are in business here in the top of the second with LaRoche. And now that's going to bring on Alexei Ramirez.
That might have been an example of a pitcher outthinking himself. It's one thing to throw a fastball 3-0. It's quite another to throw it 3-1, but then to follow it up throwing it 3-2 usually costs you a base hit if you're a knuckleballer.
Ramirez 0 for 3 last night, couple of homers, 19 RBIs, batting .247 on the season. Steve, in this case, again, the White Sox last in the American League in stolen bases with 9, but with a knuckleballer, what's your approach now?
Well, Lexi's always hit R.A. Dickey. He's hitting .400 against him, so you just let him hit. And hope that he can harken back to days past when Dickey would roll him a knuckleball or two. There you look at the numbers. He's hit a couple of home runs against him. Again, we talk about this very lively park. And Dickey will throw a lot of fly balls when he's throwing the knuckleball.
Snagged by Dickey. 1. And they're going to call Ramirez safe at first. But a force out at second base.
I think R.A. Dickey took what should have been a double play, and he was a little slow, and there was lack of communication as to who was covering second. I think that was the problem. A good call at first base by Jordan Baker. A moment of hesitation, and the Sox get a break. And now John Gibbons is looking to see if he wants to come out and challenge that play at first base. To the naked eye, looked like he was safe, and that's because he was.
So this is going to bring on Chuck, who went 0 for 2 last night, replaced Garcia in the second inning. Garcia left the ball game with that inflamed knee, and doesn't look like he's going to play tomorrow either.
Well, unfortunately, he is listed as day-to-day, but this is a tough surface if you have a knee or hip problem. Even though it's brand new, the artificial surface, it's still a lot firmer than it would be on the natural surface.
Right. This is the first season with this new surface. Almost grounded tired, those little black pellets in the turf. 1 out. 0-1 pitch by Dickey with a man on. You know, prior to the ball game, Steve, I was asking Robin Ventura. He had a great deal of success against knuckleballers in his day, and he faced quite a few, ranging from Candiotti, Wakefield, along with Sparks. And I said, what's your approach? What do you tell your ball club? He says, my approach, if it's high, let it fly. If it's low, let it go. Then he wanted to know how he did against Charlie Huff. And he gets past the second baseman of the Blue Jays, Tallison. So now the White Sox with runners at first and second.
There's an example of when you don't turn a double play, how sometimes it can get you in trouble. And the fact that it is Tallison at second base instead of Ryan Goins, who is a wonderful defender, allowed Chuck to hit that ball under the glove. It takes some odd hops off this surface, and a lot of the infielders complain about it. It's high seams, Sometimes the ball takes a skipping bounce on the first one. Other times it's a high bounce.
So Gordon Beckham at the plate. Beckham last night 1 of 4. He's got a couple of homers, 9 RBIs, 241, but he was terrific in the field. And I spoke to Gordon prior to the ball game about the turf, and he said, you know what? On defense, great. Offense, too slow.
Well, too slow because he would like to occasionally hit the ball through the infield.
Yes.
But this makes, on this surface, the way it is now, it makes an adequate infielder better because you don't have to have near as much range. And these days, Reyes doesn't have near the range that he had when he was a young shortstop.
Beckham. And that's going to drop in for a base hit. Ramirez turns the corner and is safe at the plate. And the White Sox have tied it up here 1-1 in the top of the second, and the Sox with runners at first and second.
RBI number 10 for Gordon Beckham, who is making the most of his opportunity to get a few starts. This is a knuckleball that didn't do much, and even though it's out of the strike zone, that ball stayed up. So with the philosophy that Robin Ventura told you, if it's high, let it fly, that ball stayed up. It was high. It didn't flutter, and Gordon took advantage of it.
That's going to bring on Flowers as Flowers stepping in against R.A. Dickey. And this is going to drop in for another base hit. Pilar. And the throw goes in just to the left of the plate for Tolley. And the White Sox now, Steve, have the bags loaded in the top of the second.
That was not particularly well read by J.B. Shuck. He didn't take a look where the outfielders were, and here's one that stayed up again. Tyler dumps it into center field. This ball was going to fall all the way, and J.B. hesitated. Consequently, you can't score on that. But that's a ringing endorsement for base runners to take a look where the outfielders are. That ball quite obviously was hit to the right of center.
Carlos Sanchez at the plate. He's 5 of 31 on the season, batting .161. No homers and an RBI. So let's see what Sanchez can do here with 1 out. 1-1 ball game, top of the second.
Danny Valencia in left field is a lifetime third baseman. He's got a strong arm. Pilar in center field has got a very good arm. But Sox are going to run on Colabello, who's normally a first baseman. And they're going to run every chance they get on him.
And we're going to have a play at the plate. And this sails way over the head of R.A. Dickey, who was backing up Tolley. And the White Sox have grabbed the lead here in the top of the second.
That was a horrific throw by Pilar. And fortunately, Gordon Beckham, and that's what base runners do. They're going to read the angle of the throw. And it was quite evident. Number one, he was not going to get out J.B. Shuck. This ball just flew out of his hand. No chance for anybody to get it. And both runners advanced. So even though R.A. Dickey was in the right spot, he was backing up. He couldn't pick it off the net. It's E8, but it's a run batted in for Sanchez, his second.
So the top of the order, Adam Eaton. Eaton started the ball game striking out in the first against R.A. Dickey. Eaton has hit safely in 12 of his last 14 games.
And one of the keys to this offense is going to be Adam Eaton. He had 300 last year. He had long at bats. He would take his walks if need be, but many times he'd have a 9-10 pitch at bat. So there's the run expectancy with runners at second and third and 2 outs. 30% of the time the Sox have scored at least one.
2-1 to count to Adam Eaton. Flowers at second, Beckham at third. The Jays have struggled here with R.A. Dickey on the mound. White Sox really putting the bat on the ball here. They have 4 hits. Line drive, slicing foul to the right. 2-2 count.
Dickey has gotten a lot of those knuckleballs up. I talked to Joe McEwing about hitting a knuckleball. He said he faced Wakefield and gave the same philosophy that Robin had, which was, if you can see it, if it stays up, go after it, because it's usually not doing much.
Is the key as a hitter, Steve, to be patient against a knuckleball?
No, the key as a hitter against a knuckleball is anything up, go after it, whether it's the first pitch, the second pitch, the fifth pitch. Anything you see up, attack.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Dribbler foul.
Another factor, Chuck, is there's no rhyme nor reason to why some guys hit knuckleballers and some guys don't. Frank Thomas killed knuckleballers.
Yes, he did.
And he was, he was a power hitter. Dave Kingman, a huge power hitter with a big swing, killed knuckleballers. You would think that the little guys with short swings would hit them best, but again, there doesn't seem to be any way to predict who's going to handle knuckleballers and who's not.
In fact, Thomas hit 3 homers in a ball game against Wakefield. Just fouled to the right. He broke his bat.
And he'll have to go back and get another one, as R.A. Dickey that time tried to throw a fastball in on his hands. There's a look at the major league career of R.A. Dickey, who was a relief pitcher a good portion of his career. You see the starts, 216, the appearances, 315, his ERA up over 4, and 4 games over 500. So it came to him late, and he says some of his mentors were Phil Niekro, one of the best, Tim Wakefield, another guy who spent a great deal of time in the big leagues.
Just missed. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Beckham on third, Flowers at second.
And Melky waiting patiently in this, a 9-pitch at bat.
And this is going to be caught. Nice running grab on the play by Pilar. Very fine center fielder. But the White Sox have taken the lead here. We're going to go to second from Toronto. Well, the bottom of the second here in Toronto as the White Sox have taken a 2-1 lead on the Drays, as Chris Colabello, the right fielder. Colabello went 1 of 4 last night, had a couple of RBIs. They
picked him up on waivers, so essentially got him for almost nothing. He tore it up in Buffalo at AAA, and they brought him up here, and you can look at those numbers. They're pretty lofty.
Yeah, the Jays have had so many issues health-wise, Steve, as you know, in their outfield. And out of necessity, they brought him up. He was the International Player of the Month for April. He was recalled, and he has torn the cover off the ball. And those are some very impressive numbers, as you mentioned. He's done a nice job.
Well, nothing has come to him easy. He originally signed as a free agent by the Minnesota Twins back in 2012. We saw him. He was a specialist against the left-handers. There you look at his current hitting streak, hitting .409 with a couple of home runs. Yesterday, he shortened his stroke. He drove in the 2 runs with a line drive base hit back up the middle.
Here's Danks. Yeah, Colabello has 28 hits in his first 20 games. He's 3rd best among Jays all time through 20 games.
It's nice to see a guy that has that kind of persistence, that had to battle his way every step of the way, and now he's here doing a good job of it.
On a 2-2 pitch. It's a fly ball down the right field line. Nice play. Shuck ran over near the stripe.
Every Monday this season, the White Sox will have a flash sale in which 200 tickets in select lower level seats will be available for just $10 for an upcoming game. Each sale runs for 24 hours or until they sell out. For full details, visit whitesox.com/flash sale. That's a pretty good price, $10. Get to see a major league game and enjoy some of the best concessions in all of baseball.
How about Danny Valencia, Steve? He's got some big-time numbers. He's a platoon player.
If you can hit left-hand pitchers, you will find a spot in the major leagues. You'll stay there for a long time, and you'll make a lot of money. And Danny Valencia has shown that maybe every day might be too ambitious, but against left-handers, he torches them.
He's played for the Twins, the Royals, Boston, and Baltimore. Can play the infield and the outfield. It's a 2-0 count on Valencia with 1 out here in the bottom of the 2nd. White Sox came up with 2 in the top of the 2nd. Get a fly ball to right. He's going to reach the seats.
Valencia's a lifetime third baseman, so it's not like he's going to spend a lot of time as a utility guy in the infield, but he has shown that he can play the outfield. And swinging the bat against left-handers, there's a lot of right-handers, by the way, that don't like left-hand pitchers because of a lot of left-handed soft tossers, but Valencia is one of the guys that has always put up substantial numbers.
2-2. It's that old cliche, if you can hit, they're going to find a place for you.
They certainly will.
Easy fly ball to center field. Adam Eaton. And it's 2 outs here for the Jays in the bottom of the 2nd. That's going to bring on Pilar. And Pilar with a homer, 16 RBIs, batting .222, went 0 for 3 last night. But as you mentioned last night, Steve, and again, we saw it already, he can run down the ball.
He can do that, and that's why that throw that he made from center field was most unusual. That ball slipped out of his hand and airmailed everybody. And he picked up an air. But normally, he's one of their most dependable, if not their best outfield.
Squares around a bunt. You surprised, Steve, on this turf as far as bunting that more players don't take advantage of it?
I am surprised. But that being said, here's a perfect example. Minnesota was just in Chicago. Paul Molitor, their manager, was one of the best bunting right-hand hitters of his era. Rod Carew, who came to spring training with him, was one of the best left-hand butters ever. And they brought them to spring training and tried to teach everybody on the team how to lay down a bunt. And they don't have any real good butters on that team. So even though you go over it, for some reason it's a lost art.
It is a lost art, and I wonder why.
Well, it started with the performance-enhancing drugs and slug ball. Little baseball went out the window. the little ball game went bye-bye.
Nice running grab by the left fielder Melky Cabrera, who, by the way, is going to lead off the top of the third for the White Sox, who have a 2-1 lead.
Shy Sox game day, and you might be today's White Sox fan of the game. White Sox fan photo of the game is brought to you by Beggar's Pizza, now with 22 locations. Visit beggarspizza.com because Beggar's Pizza, they lay it on thick.
Does Beggar's Pizza deliver here in Toronto?
I would hope so.
Cabrera at the plate. Fly to center in the first against R.A. Dickey. See, we've had a chance to look at some numbers, some current White Sox and some players who've had success against R.A. Dickey. As Cabrera with a fly ball to right, caught by Colabello. And those who've had success against R.A. Dickey:
Wilson Ramos with the best batting average, almost otherworldly, Gerardo Parra. Then some White Sox: Jermaine Dye, Alexi Ramirez, and Melky Cabrera have also had success against him.
So Jose Abreu stepping in. He struck out in the first. Yeah, I got a hunch, and this is just a hunch. See, I think he's going to jack one tonight.
Well, you have history on your side. But that one moved pretty well away from him. The Blue Jays are playing him straight away. We've seen a lot of teams shift on him, leaving the right side open, trying to force him to go that way to take away his power, not realizing that he's got some big power to right center field.
The 0-2 pitch with one out. Jose has hit safely in 18 of his last 20 games. Speaking of home runs, he ended a 13-game homerless drought on Sunday with that solo blast off Minnesota's Kyle Gibson.
I had a 14-year homerless drought.
Cold strike three. So Abreu having a tough night at the office thus far. A couple of strikeouts. LaRoche will step to the plate.
That was a good knuckleball. The bottom just fell out of it, and there's not much you can do when that thing is fluttering, except what Jose did. You take a look at it if it's not up.
That's going to bring on LaRoche. Got a base hit in the second inning. He also leads the American League with 18 walks. Ranks 14th in on-base percentage.
Beginning of the season, Russell Martin was a guy that was catching R.A. Dickey because Tolley was in the minor leagues. They've since brought him back, and now he is the everyday catcher of Dickey.
3-0 the count with 2 out. White Sox with 2 in the second. And Adam LaRoche is going to take a stroll to first.
Let's take a look at how Tolley uses his glove to catch him.
He's got that, almost looks like a first baseman.
Well, that's the style these days, but you see how he keeps it down. He wants to be very relaxed. He actually absorbs the baseball, and then he goes after it the last instant, but it's not a jab. And the reason is that you follow the ball till the last instant. Some catchers can do it better than others, and he's learned that relaxation is the key.
As LaRoche advances. Now, is that going to be a wild pitch or a pass ball?
Well, another thing I was going to say, if you're going to catch a knuckleballer, you can't worry about your percentages because you're going to get pass balls. This is a pass ball. It wasn't in the dirt, but again, when it floats, when it flutters and moves every which way, it's tough enough to hit and sometimes almost impossible to catch.
As you mentioned earlier, Tolley came over with Dickey in that blockbuster trade from the Mets 3 years ago. New York received a boatload of prospects, including right-handed power pitcher Noah Syndergaard, who's in that rotation now for the Mets. He's in a 6-man rotation for Terry Collins Ball Club. At the age of 22, Syndergaard can bring it.
He can do that. They've got a number of guys with great arms, and the Mets, although they desperately need a shortstop, I don't believe they're going to shop any of those young pitchers who are under control for a long time.
Cold strike. It's 3-1 on Alexei.
I actually thought that one was up and out of the zone. It actually barely caught the top part of the zone.
With 2 outs. Snagged at second base by Tollison. Let's get in the inning for the Chicago White Sox with the Jays coming to bat in the bottom of the third here at the Rogers Center. Bottom of the third inning here in Toronto. And the second baseman Steve Tollison at the plate. Tollison, a utility player. Like a little White Sox history in the Tollefson family. Danks delivers. Tollefson's father, Steve, played for the White Sox in the mid-'80s. In fact, we're talking about Tollefson's father, Wayne. He was traded by Texas to the White Sox for Scott Fletcher. The ground ball to short. Alexei gobbles it up and throws him out. And then Tollefson's dad, Wayne, was traded the following season to the Yankees for Ron Hassen.
Well, good gene.
Yes.
We see a lot of father and sons in the major leagues. We just saw Nick Swisher for the Indians. They were just in town. His father, Steve Swisher, former teammate of mine, and went to the same school that you went to, Ohio University. We're
going to talk about the MAC a little bit later. Here's Tolley. See if we got a play. No. The photographer area to our left. Speaking, there's Barry Davis of Sportsnet. Does the pre and post game shows on the Jays television network. Had a chance to know Barry during our Raptor days here.
I did a show with him today explaining the curveball.
You explained the curveball.
I explained the curveball and how to throw it and how to hope that it doesn't hang. Because when it does, it goes a long way.
Yes, it does. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Now, what was your out pitch, Steve?
The out pitch, the get-ahead pitch, the all-purpose pitch, the most of the time pitch was a curveball. 3 different speeds, but it was a curveball. Without that, I would have been selling cars, I believe.
And there's a base hit up the middle for Tolley.
That one was way out of the strike zone. Yeah. But Tolley figured that he got one up and might as well jump on it. You look at the location. This was a cutter away. And he's able to reach out because he was down in the count. A defensive swing, but it got him a base hit.
So Jose Reyes, who struck out in the first inning with 1 out and 1 on for the Jays. White Sox with a 2-1 lead here in the bottom of the 3rd. Foul territory. Abreu makes the catch, and just like that, Reyes is retired.
Our 4th drive of the game came on a first ball fastball to Josh Donaldson. He got on top of this one and crushed it. His 11th of the year, giving him 30 driven in, and that accounting for the only Blue Jays run.
Donaldson now with 11 home runs on the season. Just a professional hitter. And came over. This is his first season in Toronto. Came over in a major trade with Oakland. Was that a baseball trade or a financial trade, Steve?
I think a little of both, because they like Brett Lowry. They got him in return. A very good young pitcher named Graveman they got in return. They got 4 players overall. And Donaldson was at the point of his career. As you look at the splits, he's been so much better at home than on the road. But he was at the point of his career where he was going to make a lot of money. And Oakland figured volume was pretty good, and they made the deal. They made a few of those.
Going to fly ball, and Jose Abreu cannot make the play.
Normally that's
tough.
A much easier play for a second baseman coming over. There was no chance for Shuck because he's got to play deep. He couldn't get to it. And as you can see, Jose, who's usually very good on these, he was an over-the-shoulder catch. This is a tough play. It'll go as no play. You're not going to charge him with an error on that. So Donaldson gets another life.
0-2, 2 outs here. Bottom of the 3rd inning. Danks just outside. Donaldson has been a very durable player. He has missed only 4 games each of the past 2 seasons. Yeah, players. Russell Martin taking the night off because of R.A. Dickey, but again, he's in that lineup day after day. That's a fair ball down the left field line. So we got runners at second and third now for the Jays with 2 out.
I think the fortunate part of that was that it was totally running, because he never thought about trying to score. This is one of those shots down the line where you're hoping that a fan catches it and it becomes an automatic 2-base hit. Gordon has no chance at all on this one. And again, fortunately, it is Josh Thole at first base, so he coasts into third. And now the man just back from a cortisone shot in his shoulder, Jose Bautista.
So with 2 outs, runners at second and third for the Jays. See what develops here. Bautista had a banner season in 2010. He had 54 home runs. Then the following season, Stevie, at 43.
Well, there hasn't been a whole lot of doubt about his power. And he became a monster here north of the border.
You know, he really didn't find himself, Steve. He was with 5 different organizations.
And there's no rhyme nor reason to why the light turns on, but sometimes it does. And in his case, it was better late than never, and he's made a lot of money in this game.
1-2 count.
Second and third with 2 outs. And the Blue Jays just a touch above league average.
1-2, 2 outs. 2 on for the Jays. Low and a 2-2 count. Now, if you're Danks right here, Steve, what are you thinking in terms of pitch?
What I usually think against Bautista, I'm going to throw my best changeup, keep it low and away. You've got first base open. You don't want to make a mistake. He tried to heat him upstairs with a fastball. Fortunately, it was high enough, so he fouled it straight back. You see the location on our Xfinity pitch tracks.
Two on, 2 out. 2-2 count for Jose Bautista. Bautista, the designated hitter. They're not really sure when he's going to be able to play the field again. This is tag, deep center field. And that's over the head of Adam Eaton, and bounces over the wall for a ground rule double.
Johnny Danks tried to quick pitch him. That's something that he did 2 starts ago. Didn't do a lot of last start. And this time, it didn't work. As Bautista reaches out, shows you how strong he is. That ball is off the plate outside. And it was 1 hop out of the ballpark in center field, which is 400 feet away. Bautista is awfully strong. And Adam Eaton goes back. Can't get to it. And it bounces out of the park. So just like that, it's a 3-2 game. The Blue Jays on top.
So Bautista with a ground rule double. Off that fly ball to center field. Thole scores along with Josh Donaldson. And it's 3-2 Blue Jays here in the bottom of the third. All coming with 2 outs. Edwin Encarnacion, who struck out in the first, is at the plate. And 2 count now on Encarnacion.
In this series so far, they've been throwing Edwin face high fastballs, and they've been throwing it by him. He's going after him, and he can't catch up to him upstairs.
It's a 1-2 count on Encarnacion, who again is in the top 5 in Major League Baseball, not only in home runs but also in RBIs. We got a 2-2 count now.
There's only 2 players in the major leagues with 100 home runs and 300 runs batted in over the last 3 seasons, and that's Encarnacion and Detroit's Miguel Cabrera. 2 pretty impressive hitters.
Yes, made the All-Star team the past 2 seasons. He had 42 home runs in 2012, came back with 36 in 2013, and then 34 last year.
Not surprising, and he did that in 477 at bats. So had he played a full season, he would have dwarfed those numbers. And career against our Sox, he's been awfully good. 326, driven in 13 and 25 games with those 5 homers.
Swing and a miss, and the inning is over. But the Blue Jays have taken a 3-2 lead on the White Sox. We go to the 4th from the Rogers Center.
Jeff Vukovich, your local Nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 37 years. To join the nation, visit jeffvuk.com. Nationwide is on your side.
Top of the 4th inning here in Toronto. Chuck Swirsky filling in for Ken Harrelson, along with the former Cy Young Award winner Steve Stone. J.B. Shuck steps to the plate. It'll be Shuck, Beckham, and Flowers here at the Rogers Center. Chuck had a base hit back in the 2nd inning, with the White Sox scored a couple of runs. Count 1-2. R.A. Dickey on the mound. Only 3 knuckleball pitchers in the history of Major League Baseball have been named Pitcher of the Year. R.A. Dickey was one. Joe Niekro of Houston in '79, along with Wilbur Wood of the White Sox. Had a great season. In fact, back-to-back 24-win seasons in the early '70s.
Joe Niekro threw his knuckleball harder than all of them. Completely different than his brother Phil, who threw a relatively soft knuckleball.
And J.B. Shuck. That ball's headed to the wall. Shuck going into second with a stand-up double. So Shuck is 2 for 2. So you want to get back to that. A hard knuckleball and a soft knuckleball. What do you mean by that regarding Niekro?
Well, I think it's just velocity, and the velocity for Dickey, he's softened it up. It's down in 75, 76, 77. Joe Niekro threw his knuckleball 83, 84 miles an hour. Phil was in the mid to low 70s. So it's a matter of personal preference. Joe got movement out of a faster knuckleball, and his brother got greater movement out of a slower one.
Beckham can't get the bunt down, so it's 0-1.
Well, Gordon knows,
Beckham. Yep.
Yeah, he knows he's got a job to do, and that's to move along J.B. Shuck. And he figures it would have been a lot easier to bunt the ball than it was to try to guide it to the right side. One way or the other, at the resolution of this at bat, Shuck has to be standing at third.
Beckham singled to center in the second. Infield in, 1-1 count, nobody out here, with Shuck at second base and the Jays holding a 3-2 lead. This ball's hit to left field. Should be caught. Shuck bluffs and returns to second.
Northwest Indiana Sox fans night is on Friday, June 19th, when the Sox take on the Rangers. The White Sox are offering specially priced tickets to all Indiana residents, their families, and their friends. To purchase tickets, visit whitesox.com/NWI Sox fans.
One out here in the top of the fourth, and Tyler Flowers, who singled to center in the second inning, steps in against R.A. Dickey. We'll have an afternoon affair tomorrow here to close out our only appearance in Toronto in the regular season. Flowers swings through a Dickey pitch. Then it's on to Baltimore for a doubleheader. And Robin Ventura's announced Chris Sale will go in the first game of that doubleheader, and then Chris Beck, a right-handed pitcher currently in Charlotte, will make his major league debut.
With the doubleheader, you get to expand your roster by one pitcher. Last time we played a doubleheader, Chris Beck was the guy that came up. This time he's coming up and getting the start.
Flowers, the number 8 hitter, with a chopper to third on the short hop. Donaldson.
Donaldson is an excellent fielder, and what he did here was make sure that he saw J.B. Shuck going back to second before he threw to first. A young third baseman not thinking much about this. As you see him take a look, take a hesitation before he made his throw. You get rid of the ball too quickly, and you allow that runner to come down the line with your throw, he's going to wind up at third base, but there was no chance that time.
White Sox, Steve, have had 2 opportunities to move Shuck to third.
Didn't get it done because it's a knuckleball and you're just trying to make some contact.
Sanchez takes it inside pitch. Sanchez with an RBI sac fly in the second. That time giving the White Sox a 2-1 lead, but the Jays answered with 2 in the bottom of the third.
And tomorrow, that afternoon game, starting at 11:37, is Jeff Samardzija against Marco Estrada.
1-1 with 2 outs. Sanchez, the little I've seen of him, Steve, he's got some great hands at second base.
I think he does a whole lot of things right, and when you realize, Chuck, that he's been the youngest player in every league he's been in, and by being the youngest player, quite obviously everything has been pretty new to him, but here he finds himself in the major leagues, striking out to end an inning.
So we'll go to the bottom of the fourth here in Toronto at the Rogers Center. Jays with the 3-2 lead. Bottom of the fourth inning here in Toronto at game 2 of a 3-game series. Colabello, Valencia, and Pilar against John Danks. 3-4-1 for the Jays, 2-5-0 for the White Sox. Jays started the evening 21-26, 3.5 behind Tampa in the American League East.
Had a chance before the game to talk to one of the great men in all of baseball, and that was Cito Gaston, who managed this team to World Series wins in 92 and 93, has the all-time record for wins as a manager. He's now a consultant. I asked him how it was going. He said it's great. If they don't do well, I tell them they're not listening to me. If they do well, I tell them that's it. That's exactly what we were talking about. But he sits with Paul Beeston every night.
One of my favorite people. I love Paul.
He talks with Alex Anthopoulos, their general manager, and there you see what Cito Gaston has meant to this organization.
Pat Gillick, brilliant baseball man.
Pat Gillick, a Hall of Famer.
Yes, Paul Beeston, one of the classiest sports executives you will ever meet, Steve. When I was here in Toronto for 10 years, what a gentleman and a great sportsman. You know, you talked about Cito Gaston. Roberto Alomar, another great Hall of Famer. Cito Gaston, as you mentioned, the manager for those World Series teams of 92 and 93. It was the last time they made the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been a long dry spell.
And you know, Steve, they have tried everything here. They've made major trades. They brought in big names like Roger Clemens. They've gone through different GMs. J.P. Ricciardi was coming in here, and he went after B.J. Ryan, who had one very good season with Baltimore, but then he got hurt here with an elbow. They signed Vernon Wells to a mammoth contract. A.J. Burnett, they brought him in as a free agent as well.
Well, I think what you're saying is the key to this whole riddle.
Sliding grab. Beautiful play by Adam Eaton.
Adam got a good jump on this sinking line drive, and as you can see, those ground up tires under the field, they just come flying up in the air. What you said was they brought this guy in, they brought that guy in, they traded for this guy, they got this guy as a free agent. One of the reasons why things haven't worked out real well is that the farm system dried up for quite some time. And unless you are building a ball club from within, number one, it's going to be very costly, and number two, you're not going to have control of as many guys as you'd like for as long as you'd like. And that's been the biggest problem, and that's why when you're building a baseball team these days, because of the economics of the game, you would best grow your own, and the teams that do that more successfully than others are the teams that will maintain success.
Danny Valencia flied out to center in the second. So, Steve, how do you build a baseball team?
I think one of the things, Chuck, you got to think about is ideally you want the smartest player on your team to either be your shortstop or your catcher.
And why is that?
Because they're the two positions that are more involved than any other positions, and they're playing out there every day. If the smartest player on your team is either the shortstop or the catcher, they can take control in the infield. They can meet with the pitcher. They can have meetings on the mound.
It's a pop-up behind the second base bag. And the Jays have 2 outs here. So go ahead, finish your train of thought on that.
Well, there's Cito Gaston and Paul Beeston. That's Beeston to the left of Cito. Cito in the middle of your picture. Two great baseball men. They're trying to do what they can to help this ball club. But so assuming that one or the other is going to be the smartest guy on the field, then you have to develop young pitching. Because if you have young pitching, that's our gold in this game. Then you can get anything. If you have young pitching, you can make a trade for another position you want. Then if you have a sound foundation of homegrown players, that's when you go out and add a free agent here, a free agent there. You make a trade for something that you don't have.
Comebacker to the mound. And Danks has retired Pilar, and the inning is over. I want to continue this. This is a good topic, Steve. Hang on for a moment. We go to the 5th here in Toronto.
field. Join the White Sox in their effort to raise awareness of stroke warning signs and the importance of acting fast. If you know the word fast, you'll know all of the symptoms and signs of a stroke. Purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com/strikeoutstroke.
Adam Eaton will lead it off for the White Sox. Struck out swinging in the first, flied out to center in the second. Chuck Swirsky filling in for Ken Harrelson alongside Steve Stone. This has been a delight. You are a walking encyclopedia, Steve. Seriously, I'm learning so much even in a short period of time in a couple of ball games. And I want to get back to a topic about building a ball club.
Well, I mean, we've talked about a number of different ways to do it, and you can do it a number of different ways because we've seen a lot of organizations try different things over and over. But the one tried and true thing that you can't escape is building your own. Look at Kansas City's team. They built their own with a lot of their own players. Salvador Perez is theirs. Alex Gordon is theirs.
Eaton leads off with a walk, but it took Kansas City a while.
It did, and it takes a while if you do that. If you're going to build from within, there's no quick fixes. And so because it takes time and because there's a lot of impatient people around, it's a lot more difficult to do it that way through the draft. And you got to be very good in the draft, Chuck, probably from, let's say 10 to 25. Those picks are difficult. And if you're successful with those picks, you can get it done. But there's no replacement for.
And why are they difficult?
Well, because obviously you take the cream off the top. You get guys that have to try harder. They're not as talented as some of the other guys that you're taking high in the draft. They're guys that are overlooked because of injuries and a number of other things. And you have to hope that they turn out to be a little bit better than they project on the field. That's why the scout's eyes, in many instances, are better than a computer. Because guys that never grade out on a computer, good scout's going to pick up the ceiling for the guy, not where he is now. That's one of the great things about an older scout, is he can take a look at a guy and tell you where the guy's ceiling is going to be, not where he is today. Anybody can tell you where a guy is today. But tell me what he's going to look like in 2 or 3 years. If you're looking at a high school kid, I'll give you a very valuable scout. There is room for computers in this game, and we're seeing more and more of it. I'm not one of those guys that said throw away the computers because they're essential today. And a lot of guys use them better than others, but they have to be used in conjunction with really good, talented scouts.
2-1 on Cabrera, flied out, once to center, once to right. This ball is going to drop in for a base hit. And the White Sox now with runners at first and second. Melky Cabrera delivering.
I'd have to think that because of the twilight, that ball wasn't caught. The reason being that ball was up for a great deal of time. I think Melky was somewhat surprised that he came away with a base hit here, as it looked like Colabello could have made the catch. It looked like Tolleson might have thought about it, and at the end, nobody got it, and the Sox are in business.
Was that a late jump on Colabello then?
I don't think he saw the ball, Chuck, and I think because the lights haven't taken over yet, it's twilight here, I think visibility is a problem.
To Jose Abreu, struck out swinging in the first, a cold strikeout in the third.
And the bullpen up and going for the first time for Toronto.
Nobody out here.
There's a pen, and it's Ryan Tepera.
2-0 count on Abreu. And it's 3-0.
And this is where a hitter is squeezing the sawdust out of the bat against a knuckleballer, fully anticipating he's going to get a fastball. Pitch number 84 on the way for Dickey. He got the fastball right down the middle.
Three balls and a strike. And this is hit well. Left field. That baby is gone. A 3-run shot for Jose Abreu.
He got the fastball. He got it to his liking. It was middle in, and a line drive rocket off R.A. Dickey. And just like that, the Sox have the lead.
Can I change my pick to quick?
Well, all of us looked at the numbers that Jose had and said it was a gentleman's agreement. Let's not pick him. That's what happens. That's what happens to fastballs when you get behind hitters. They turn into line drive rockets.
And the White Sox have grabbed a 5-3 lead here as Jose Abreu with a 3-run shot, scoring Eaton and Cabrera. That took off.
8th home run. He now has driven in 26, and he continues to torment R.A. Dickey.
LaRoche at the plate, singled to center in the second, drew a walk in the third. White Sox have scored 5 runs here. Fouled off to the right. They've scored 5 runs, even though they came in with only having scored 1 run in the past 2 games on a total of 8 hits.
Well, I'm painfully aware of that. But tonight, a guy that they've always hit, R.A. Dickey, they've hit just as hard.
There's a ground ball as Reyes cuts off Tolleson and throws him out. 5-7-0 for the White Sox. 3-4-1 for Toronto. Ramirez will step in with 1 out.
Lexi hit the ball right on the nose last time with a man on. Unfortunately, it was lined right at Tolleson. But he usually does well against R.A. Dickey.
So good to see, number one, a home run, first and foremost. And secondly, with Abreu, because once he gets going, Steve, I think you're going to see big, big numbers once we turn into June.
Jose is too good a hitter to have a home run frequency down as low as it's been. And as long as he's healthy, and he is entirely healthy, he's going to put up big numbers.
That's a well hit ball. That's going to drop in the left center. But Bob Pilar, and Ramirez reaches base. How long do you go now with R.A. Dickey?
Well, that's the question that John Gibbons has got to answer, is how patient are you going to be, especially with J.B. Shuck 2 for 2. So Alexi continues to hit the ball hard. That ball stayed up. And now you have another situation that you encounter with knuckleballers, and that is it's tough to throw out would-be base stealers.
That's the 8th hit. Ramirez going for a steal, and he's in there. Ball bounces off Reyes. It's going to be a stolen base for Alexi.
Jolie did as good a job as he could possibly do. He would have been very close had the ball been hung on to. It wasn't, unless he gets a pretty decent jump. And Reyes can't hang on to it, so it becomes a moot point.
0-1 pitch. So already in this ball game, folks, we've had a White Sox home run and a White Sox stolen base.
Something that the Sox have not done a whole lot of. But that is one thing that a knuckleballer consistently gives you, and that is if you can get your runners on, you just don't hesitate.
White Sox now with 10 stolen bases. With 1 out, the 0-2 pitch. That's going to advance the runner. Nice job by Shuck. We're down to 2 outs here, but nonetheless, with the knuckleball pitcher, a little wild pitch, pass ball.
And with the offense that the Blue Jays have in this lineup, you can never really have too many runs in this park. We've seen it's a very lively park, and we've seen the Blue Jays, at least here, put up runs in bunches.
To Gordon Beckham, who singled to center with an RBI in the second, flied out to left in the fourth. One and one.
Joe McEwing goes over and has a word with Alexei. He's telling him to be heads up, get a good secondary lead, come toward the plate, because anything in the dirt, you got to score.
1-2 on Gordon Beckham, getting another opportunity to start at third base. Played very well last night defensively. Two outs.
That time he took a whole lot off the knuckleball. That one at 69 miles an hour. That's the slowest knuckleball he's thrown tonight. Gordon just able to stay alive.
A ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Ramirez at third. Holt struck him out. However, Jose Abreu with a 3-run shot. And the White Sox have taken a 5-3 lead here in Toronto. Bottom of the 5th inning here in Toronto. Tolleson, Tolley, and Reyes will step in against Danks. For the White Sox holding a 5-3 lead, courtesy of Jose Abreu, with his 8th homer on the season. Ball hit down the left field. Let's see if he goes for 2. And Tolleson motoring into second base. And with a stand-up double.
Tolleson, knowing that Melky throws left-handed, and knowing that he's going away from the throw, decided that there wasn't a whole lot of risk in coasting into second base. Melky's got a good arm. He's normally very accurate with it, but going away from the play, you have to do that complete pivot. And Tolleson coasts in with a double.
You looking for a bunt here, Steve?
I would think a bunt to third base would be in order for Tolley.
So a leadoff double for Tolleson. Tolley singled to center in the third.
Sox defense anticipating that he's going to be pulling the ball because they've got Alexi holding Tolleson close.
Tolley came in hitting only 111. They brought him up in late April. As Steve mentioned, he is the catcher for A.A. Dickey, not only here in Toronto, but also during their days with the Mets.
The number one catcher was getting beat up.
Again, this is the designated catcher for a knuckleball pitcher, and R.A. Dickey. Tolley who's at the plate with a 3-0 count.
And when you sign Russell Martin to an $82 million 5-year contract, the last thing you want is him to take a beating with a knuckleball that he's not used to catching.
Cold strike.
There's a look at Russell, who's done a terrific job with his staff. One of the reasons why they brought him in was to handle a very young staff, and the first thing that happened was Marcus Stroman went down with a knee problem, and that was a big mistake.
That's well hit, and that's a fair ball into the right field corner. Tolleson will score, and Tolley slides into second.
John threw a 3-1 fastball, and unfortunately he threw it down the middle. So just like that, the lead is down to 1 run as Tolley drives in just his second run of the year. He went up with the idea of trying to pull everything, and he got the fastball that he wanted when John fell behind.
So back-to-back doubles with nobody out here. It's a 5-4 ball game. White Sox. Reyes stands in now. Squares around the bunt. Fouled out to Abreu in the third. Struck out swinging to lead off the ball game in the bottom of the first for Toronto.
And John wants to know if that was a strike. The pitch was out of the zone, but it appeared that Reyes actually made an attempt to bunt it. And although they had listed a ball and still do up on the scoreboard, John wants to know if it was a strike, and it was.
There's a bunt poorly done by Reyes, and Beckham darts in and makes the grab. If you're Reyes, I know he's upset. You don't need to tell a player what happened, but you got to execute.
But Johnny threw a good pitch. He threw a high fastball, which is what you want to throw in a bunt situation. Reyes had shown bunt. The high fastball was popped straight up. So Tolley stays at second. Not a particularly good effort by a veteran player who has been a bunter during the course of his career, but the execution was just not there.
One out now for the Jays. 5-4. White Sox. Donaldson, who had a solo blast, his 11th of the season, and the first to give the Jays at that time a 1-0 lead. He's at the plate. He also doubled the left in the third. Donaldson, who has been in the top 10 in MVP voting twice in successive years. It's a called strike, and 1-1 with one out. was my first look at Donaldson up close and personal, Steve.
He's pretty impressive.
He is impressive. I will give you that.
29 years old, just really coming into his own. He was a catcher. That's how he was drafted in the second round by the Cubs. 6 feet tall, 225 pounds. And he made himself into not a good, but a great third baseman.
I gave you that graphic earlier about Donaldson against left-handed pitchers. 444 with 8 homers, over 30 RBIs.
That was coming in.
Yes.
The 2 for 2 tonight. Not going to hurt him any.
5-4 White Sox. 2-2 count with 1 out. He doesn't get cheated either.
Nope.
He takes some healthy cuts. Speaking of which, we're going to see a ball club next week. Speaking of healthy cuts, I saw the Houston-Baltimore game, Steve. You talk about the Astros. It's feast or famine. They'll either strike out or hit home runs.
Well, they also have some pretty big speed on that ball club.
Yes.
And that's another way they can beat you.
Danks with the set. 2-2 count. And we're 3-2 now. Jays with a man on second. 1 out. White Sox with a 5-4 lead. They took that lead on Abreu's home run. They walked him.
Visit participating Chicagoland Great Clip salons by June 5th for the Great Clip Summer Sweepstakes. The grand prize winner will throw out the first pitch on Mullet Night on Friday, June 19th, plus White Sox tickets and a pregame patio party are included in that prize. Purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME.
Tell me you never had a mullet.
I never had one.
Oh, good.
I could never grow enough hair to have one.
2 of us. So they had a meeting on the mound. What do you think they were talking about?
Well, Don Cooper is, I'm sure, talking to him about forget about what's past because you can't do anything about it. This is what we thought about to get Bautista out in the pregame meeting. You might be reminding him how they wanted to get him out, and you always leave a pitcher with a positive thought. Positive thought like, throw us a ground ball. We'll turn 2 and get out of the inning.
With 1 out, first and second for the Jays, and Bautista at the plate. He flied out to right in the first and doubled the center for a couple of RBIs in the third.
And the Sox bullpen starting to stir for the first time.
Went around the 1-1 count.
Soft breaking ball, couldn't check his swing. You see the raised front foot. That's his timing device. That ostensibly is to keep him back on breaking pitches. That time he couldn't stay back.
A hard swing and a miss.
Jake Petrichka loosening up in the pen. He's had a pretty good run of late out of the bullpen. That sinker has been working exceptionally well.
Bautista goes the opposite way, and this is all the way to the wall in the right corner. 1 run is in. 2 runs are in, and just like that, the Jays have rallied, and they have taken the lead here.
Nobody told Carlos Sanchez that the run was coming home. He held the baseball. He was waiting to hear, because he has his back to the play, exactly what was going on. And someone, if you're the relay man, has got to let you know. So Bautista takes it into the corner, driving in his 26th and 27th run. Now Shuck gets the ball back in. This part is good. And then Sanchez decides to hold on to it, and the run scores.
6-5 Jays with 3 here in the bottom of the inning. Now you see how valuable, and Steve Stone talked about this in the opening tease, how valuable this Toronto lineup, already powerful, but when they get Bautista back as they did tonight, look out.
Well, in talking with John Gibbons, he talked about his ball club here, and he said there's going to be many nights because of the youth and sometimes the ineffectiveness of his starting pitching that he's just going to have to outscore the opposition. This is one of those nights, and so far this has been an offensive extravaganza for both clubs.
Encarnacion with a 1-1 count with 1 out. Jays with a 6-5 lead. Bautista has gone 2 for 3, has 4 RBIs in his return game. Six, 7, and 1 for the Jays. Throw to second base.
The throw was right on the bag. Unfortunately, the foot of Bautista got there an eyelash ahead, and they couldn't get him. It's a good throw by Tyler Flowers. As you can see, the ball and Bautista got to the bag at the same time.
Into the bat, little dribbler.
When I talked to John Gibbons about Bautista, I said, you know, why risk him in this series? Why not just rest him? Because, you know, those shoulders are tricky things. He took a cortisone shot. He would be better served to spend another couple of days out of the lineup. Well, you're seeing what happens when he's in the lineup, and it's pretty devastating.
Bautista met with reporters yesterday, Steve. A cluster of us spoke with him down the left field line, and someone asked him about, you know, the reason for the cortisone. He said, you know, the other medication just wasn't working. And then someone said, well, the follow-up is, have you, considered surgery? He said, that would be my last resort, only if my career was in jeopardy.
Yeah, they put him out for the year, and he doesn't want to do that with a team that they think has a good shot. Last year, this ball club was in first place for 42 consecutive days. That was from May 21st to July 2nd. And then, of course, they fell out, didn't get back, and it was another disappointing year for them.
He's come through with his 10th double, and Encarnacion.
He thought the ball was high, but it had the zone, and he rings him up.
It's his 3rd time he struck out tonight.
Tyler does a nice job. Watch the glove. He catches it and moves his wrist. He doesn't yank the glove down. Even though the ball was in the zone, it makes it look like an even better pitch. And Tyler rated the 2nd best framer of pitches in baseball. So you can see why, if you move your wrist and you don't yank the glove, you're going to get many more pitches.
Colabello at the plate. Fly to right in the 2nd, fly to center in the 4th. You talked about framing pitches. Flowers, in an interview during the spring training session with the White Sox, was talking about the fact that he saw some videotape of Russell Martin in the offseason so he could learn how to frame pitches better.
And Russell is a master at it. And again, it all comes from the wrist. Moving the wrist and not yanking the glove. If you can do that, if you can, on an outside pitch, move the wrist over, it just makes it look like it's a better pitch. And also, the umpire doesn't see the movement of the hand jerking it into the zone. And it usually works out pretty well.
So in other words, it's not as pronounced as...
No, it's subtle. And that's the way to frame pitches and get pitches, whether they're up, down, in, or out.
0-1 count with 2 out. Swing and a miss. Now, when you pitch, Steve, who is the best receiver for you in that position?
By far, Rick Dempsey, who caught for Baltimore, actually spent 24 years in the big leagues. He came out and told me one of the best things you can tell a curveball pitcher. I got there early. He said, you cannot throw the ball by me in the dirt. The only way you can get it by me is throwing it over my head. So give me your best curveball with a man at third base. I want you to get him out.
Swing and a miss for Colabello. And the inning is over. But the Jays take a 6-5 lead. We go to the 6th from Rogers Center.
Text Subway to 97999 right now for your chance to win 6 meals from the Simple 6 menu from Subway. Message and data rates may apply. Subway, eat fresh.
Chuck Swirsky, Steve Stone. Steve, we got a couple of changes for the Jays.
We got a new second baseman and a new pitcher. And the pitcher is Ryan Tepera. There you look at the numbers. On for the 6th time. Opponent's batting average at 185. That's very good. Granted, it's small sampling. And we've got Ryan Goins at second base.
Chuck Swirsky filling in for Ken Harrelson alongside the former Cy Young Award winner of the Baltimore Orioles, Steve Stone, as the Jays have taken a 6-5 lead here.
Tepera, a 19th round draft pick in 2009 draft out of Sam Houston University.
There's a line drive, base hit, and it went off the leg of the center fielder Pilar, and Pilar's going in for 2. Now, how do you, from an official score standpoint?
It's a double.
It is a double.
It's a rocket to center field. I would be shocked if they give him a base hit in an air. It is a 2-base hit. It's a fastball. It's down the middle. And on the carom to Colabello, again, we talked about earlier that Sox are going to run every chance they get if Colabello is the man throwing the baseball. And Tyler Flowers, with better than average speed for a catcher, able to wind up at second base with his second hit and a promising way to start the 6th.
So you're going from a knuckleball pitcher to now. So tell me about the adjustments hitters have to make.
Most of the guys are pretty happy, actually, because they have a conventional pitcher. There's no adjustment other than you're going to see the ball coming in a whole lot faster. But most hitters like that. Not a good night for Dickey, but he leaves with the lead. He went 5 innings, gave up 5 runs on 8 hits. He walked a pair and fanned 5. And he stands to be, at least for the moment, the pitcher of record.
Oh, he got hit. So Sanchez will take first. Flowers at second. By the way, I'm really happy for Flowers. You know, a couple of base hits tonight. Here's the replay. You're going to get hit.
If you're going to get hit, if you would have a choice, that would probably be the choice you'd make. And now John Gibbons coming out. That usually means that that's it. And it looks like Aaron Luke is coming in the game. So that's it for Tepera. He will depart after facing 2 men and not retiring any of them. And as he walks out, we'll step out and be back after these messages. Athletico.com and start defining your pain-free inner athlete today. Athletico, the official physical therapy provider of the Chicago White Sox. Athletico, better for everybody. We've got Aaron Loup coming in the ball game. And Loup at 1-2, his ERA 5.5 on for the 19th time. He's got good control. He inherits runners at first and second and nobody out here in the 6th inning.
With Adam Eaton at the plate. So Flowers, who doubled, his 5th of the season on a line drive deflected by the center fielder Kevin Pillar. Then Sanchez hit by a pitch. And again, nobody out here with Adam Eaton at the plate. Eaton struck out swinging in the first, flied out to center in the second. He walked in the 5th. Jays with a 6-5 lead.
Loup had a good year last year. He was 4-4, but his ERA a fine 3.15, and he appeared in 71 games, so he's very durable. He's a low 3/4 or high sidearm left-hander, which is tough on left-hand hitters, but right-handers see the ball pretty well against him.
Another homegrown talent player came out of the farm system here in Toronto. Adam Eaton squares around the bunt over the plate. 1-2 the count with nobody out.
Loup, a 9th round pick in 2009.
Two. Infield drawn in. Double clutch. And we have a force out at second.
Goins could not get to the bag in time. That probably should have been 2. But you can credit Sanchez with getting down the line and making a good hard slide at second. This one right at Donaldson. And as you can see, he couldn't throw it right away, and by the time he does, it's too late as Eaton beats the play, and that could prove to be costly for the Jays.
So with 1 out, runners at first and third for the White Sox. Melky Cabrera takes a 1-0 count. Cabrera flied out to center in the first, flied out to right in the third, and singled to right in the 5th.
He turns around to hit from the right side for the first time. He's had a tough time as a right-hand hitter. 3 for 39.
Here's the pitch inside, almost hit him.
Talking to a lot of these Blue Jay players, they were really surprised that Melky is not hitting the ball better than he has, and I told him he really is, especially from the left side. Hit a lot of line drives. The biggest problem is the extra base hits. They've just pretty much dried up.
Hitting .243 on the season. There's a ground ball deep and short. Reyes for 1. Safe at first. The run scores.
So that double play that wasn't turned on the play before, and Adam Eaton going into Goins as hard as he did, which disrupted this one, turns into a tie game. So Melky drives in a run, his 16th of the year, because of his hustle down the line. Good hard slide, and that's a slide that could be called interference, only because it's a slide and it's a roll into the second baseman. Now let's see exactly what's going to happen here, because if it's interpreted that he disrupted the throw, they're going to call that a double play, and it's going to revert to a 6-5 game. They'll allow you the slide. They usually won't allow you the slide and roll.
So the umpires having a conference to Make sure, and they're going to take a look at the replay.
They're going to New York, and they're going to take a look at it. And this is the best angle we have.
What do you think, Steven?
He's safe. Called him safe. They're saying that the throw was off before the roll came, and it's a tie game. So it stands as an RBI for Melky. And even more important than that, a 6-6 game.
Yes. With Jose Abreu at the plate, he had a 3-run shot in the 5th. We have a brand new ball game, folks, here in Toronto. 6-6 takes a call strike. That's just good old-fashioned hard-nosed baseball by Adam Eaton.
He went in, didn't interfere with the throw, but slid as hard as he could, tried to disrupt the play, and at the end of the day disrupted it enough.
Six, 7-1 for the Jays, 6-9-0 for the White Sox. Ball in the dirt. Sox trying to snap a 3-game losing streak. Jays have won 2 in a row.
Apparently what was challenged, Chuck, was the play at first. They were saying that he was out at first base.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently they felt that nothing was illegal about that slide.
Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. 6-6 ball game here in Toronto.
Loop has a pretty good fastball. It's 95 miles an hour. But again, as a low 3/4 pitcher, normally right-handers see it pretty well.
Abreu swings and misses. He struck it out for the 2nd time of the ball game. Abreu goes down for the Jays, and the White Sox now tied at 6. We go to the bottom of the 6th for the moment from Rogers Center.
And Jake Petrichka comes into this. Jake at 0-1, but his ERA 3.55, on for the 15th time. Opponent's hitting 327, but that's misleading because lately he's been getting everybody out. So he had a couple of tough outings when he came back. Now he's feeling 100%, and the sinker's been awfully good, and he's got to deal with Danny Valencia to lead it off.
Valencia is 0 for 2 on the night. What do you think of Dank's performance, Steve?
I didn't think he had particularly good stuff, and I think that this is a lineup that has given him trouble historically, and it gave him trouble here tonight. 5 innings, 6 runs on 7 hits. John made a couple of mistakes. Unfortunately, this Toronto team, which is tougher on left-handers than right-handers anyway, because most of their big bangers are right-hand hitters, they didn't miss many tonight. But he comes out with a no decision, and now it's up to the offense again.
Valencia swings and misses. He struck him out on 3 pitches.
And he doesn't play much against right-handers because he's very susceptible to the slider. And we'll take a look at a perfect slider here. He has no chance. When you open that front shoulder, as you saw there, Valencia opening the left shoulder, you open that up, you have no coverage on the outside part of the plate, and you are consistently a victim of the slider, which is why he faces left-handers.
Center fielder Kevin Pillar flied out to left in the second, ground out to Danks in the fourth. Oh, great backhanded. And 4-3. That's how you score it. Beautiful job by Sanchez.
It's a tough play. It's a short hop, and again, on this new surface, you never really know how the ball is going to hop. Carlos right there smothers a short hop and makes the play. So quickly, 2 up, 2 down.
Give me an idea, Steve, about the makeup of Petrichka.
I think he's got the perfect disposition for a bullpen pitcher, and I believe eventually he's going to be a premier setup man. Maybe before it's over, he's going to grow into a closer. The reason being that he's got good movement on everything he throws. When he keeps the sinker down, guys just keep pounding it into the ground. And when he's feeling 100%, his stuff is as good as most folks.
Brian Goins, who replaced Steve Tollison at second base. He's at the plate. 1-1 count with 2 outs. Very entertaining ball game here in Toronto. Glad you could join us tonight right here on WGN Sports. My 50. Swing and a miss by Goins.
What you are seeing for the first time in a while is some big offense on the part of the Sox. And it's seemingly very much a seesaw affair. Every time Toronto's taken the lead, the Sox have come right back. Then Toronto has come right back. And right now, not much to choose from between these two teams. It was 6 runs on 9 hits for the Sox, 6 runs on 7 hits for Toronto. Toronto's made the only error of the game. A 3-run homer by the man you're looking at, Jose Abreu, was the big blast as far as the Sox are concerned.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Swing and a miss. Well, the White Sox get the job done. We go to the top of the 7th here in Toronto, and we are tied at 6. runs on the board.
There's no doubt that offense cures a lot of ills. And if the starting pitching isn't quite what you'd like, you score a lot of runs, you find that you're right in every game. And the good thing about tonight, Chuck, it's been very exciting. I'm happy you're around to see it. And, of course, he's sitting in for Hawk Harrelson, who's having minor surgery. He's going to be back after this road trip, and we're hoping we can bring him back a winning road trip.
No question about it. Hawk, we're thinking about you 24/7. Roberto Osuna has taken the mound now for the Jays. What can you tell us about him, Stephen?
Well, I can tell you he's had a very good run at it this year. On for the 20th time. His ERA, .79. He's 1-0. You're talking about a guy that was ranked as the 5th top prospect in this organization last year. He underwent Tommy John surgery in 2013. Signed by the Blue Jays out of Mexico as a 16-year-old.
Adam LaRoche, who singled to center in the second, walked in the third, grounded to short. This is the 4th Toronto pitcher. I want to get back to Osuna in a moment, Steve. Let's follow this pitcher on a 1-0 count. You made an excellent point here in Game 1 of the opening series regarding Tommy John and how it was classified as almost a death sentence a few years ago. But now, in every organization, you find players peppered with it.
Yeah, it's gotten better and better as far as the surgical procedure. The rehab has gotten to be almost routine. You obviously don't want a surgery, but if you're going to have one, any surgery you choose for a pitcher, Tommy John's a pretty good one to have. You come back with a stronger elbow than you had before, assuming that you do all of the exercises that you're supposed to do. You come back and everything works out well, and this young man has come back with a vengeance. He's got very good stuff. On April 8th of this year, became the youngest pitcher to appear in a game for this organization and the first player born in 1995 to play in the major leagues.
I feel old, real old.
They're getting younger.
They are getting younger. 1-2 count. There's a ground ball up the middle and bobbled by Reyes. It should be an error.
You can take that to the bank. This one right back up the middle. You can tell that Reyes is just not 100%. He's back off an extended stay on the disabled list, and he's not used to this new surface because the ball takes some funny hops. Everybody talks about it in the infield, and he's the latest victim of a hop that surprised him.
So Alexei at the plate, he's 1 for 3, single to center in the 5th. Ramirez batting .248. Swing and a miss. You talk about young players in the case of Osuna, youngest in Jays history. Remember in the mid-70s, the Rangers, right out of high school, drafted David Clyde.
And pretty much ruined his career
right out
for
of high
a gate.
School. He was, what, just like a week or two out of high school?
18 years old. They started him in a game. They kept him in the major leagues for a bit. And he was never the same.
One fouled back. And if memory serves me correct, and I know, Steve, that you are a volume of information, but you can check on this. You can Google it.
Okay.
I believe he started against Minnesota. There was a traffic jam in Arlington, and I believe it was against Minnesota. Eddie Bain.
I think it was because the circus was through and some elephants got away. And now I didn't know about the traffic jam or the fact that it was Minnesota. I just knew that they wanted to get a big crowd.
Yes.
They got the big crowd, but unfortunately they took a very valuable commodity and essentially ruined it.
One and two. Has any player come right out of high school and pitched in that short period of time? Steve, in your recollection?
Not recently, and I think there's been some players came out of high school and hit in the major leagues. But I don't believe that they've had a whole lot of success with pitchers doing that.
6-6 ball game, 2-2 count to Ramirez. Now, Robin Yount came out of high school, right, and went to the Brewers?
Yes, he did, and turned it into a Hall of Fame career. think it's a whole lot easier for a hitter because I don't think a pitcher's arm is even close to fully developed. And those 2 or 3 years that he'll have to develop, now they just ease him into a professional rotation by really limiting his innings in those early years. He goes to the Arizona Fall League if he's good. Otherwise, he'll go to Instructional League. Then he'll go to an Arizona Summer League. He won't face top-line competition for some time.
Well, we have got some more trivia for you in a moment. Let's see what happens here. 2-2 count. Foul back. So David Clyde did make his major league debut against Minnesota, and his second major league start came against Steve Stone.
Who won that one?
We'll check on that. White Sox won, but you were not a pitcher of decision. You went 7 innings and 4 earned runs.
And I was pulled way too quick in that game.
Yes, of
I
course.
remember that.
What year was that? Like 74, 75?
73. Wow. I remember that year.
Now, who was your manager back in 73?
That was Chuck Tanner. The pitching coach was Johnny Sane, and we had a 3-man rotation because they wanted Wilbur Wood as many starts as he could possibly have.
Speaking of knuckleballs, that we started with R.A. Dickey.
Yeah.
See, we connect the dots. Steve Stone, Wilbur Wood, David Clyde, R.A. Dickey.
Well, I remember that 3-man rotation because I started 10 times on 2 days rest.
And you started 10 times,
10 times
on
2 days rest, and it culminated by throwing Monday and Thursday in the same series in Texas when it was 1 billion degrees. I lost the Monday start, got the no decision in the Thursday start. I was ecstatic to get a no decision.
Here's the pitch. Swung on, little looper, hustling in, left fielder Valencia, and he makes the catch. That's amazing, Steve. Twice. I mean, what was your arm like?
Not good, but I did throw 176 innings, getting my first start that year in June 2nd. And I do remember that Wilbur lost 20 games that year, and Stan Bonson had 3 or 4 starts left. He went up to Johnny Sane. He said, "When's my next start?" He said, "Never." So what do you mean never? By my calculation, I got 3 or 4 starts left. He says, "You have no starts left." He goes, "Why not?" He says, "You're going to the bullpen. You won't get near a decision because I am not going to be a pitching coach that has 2 20-game losers." So Bonson wound up with 19 losses.
J.B. Shuck takes a ball. Shuck has been very productive tonight. Single to right in the second, double to right in the fourth, rounded out to second in the fifth.
He's also getting a chance to start and making the most of it because Avi's knee is not quite 100%. He left the ball game last night after 1 at bat where he got a base hit. And so JB getting his opportunity and looking pretty good. You don't know how many chances you're going to get. He fought his way onto this ball club in spring training. There were no promises when he came over. Didn't have a particularly good year last year. So you come over, you try to impress somebody early. He can run, he can field, and he hit the ball in spring training. So he made the ball club, and now getting an opportunity to show what he can do, and he's looked pretty good.
Inside, 3-0 to J.B. Shuck. 6-6 ball game. Very entertaining ball game tonight here in Toronto. We have a crowd of 17,276. We have 15,600 last night. We have a day game tomorrow before on to Baltimore for a doubleheader on Thursday. Cold strike. And again, in that Baltimore doubleheader, that's going to be an early start time because the White Sox have to fly to Houston after the twin bill. Chris Beck, right-hander out of Georgia Southern, will make his major league debut in Game 2 following Chris Sale. 3-1 the count, 1 out. Here's a ground ball. They're going to try and turn 2, and they can't.
Sox fans, our pregame patio parties are the best deal at the ballpark. You receive a game ticket and an all-you-can-eat buffet, which is exactly what I love. It's catered by Baseball Buffet. There's wine, there's Miller and Pepsi beverages, and the patio opens 90 minutes prior to the game and closes 30 minutes after the start of the game. To purchase tickets, visit whitesox.com/group.
And we just saw JB Shuck. Do you think that was the case of the turf?
No, just a slowly hit ball, and he's got very good speed. So a quick toss to first base, and JB is back under the tag.
Who has the best speed on the ball club for the White Sox?
Good question. It was pretty easy before when Micah Johnson was here, but he is not here any longer. I think Adam Eaton probably would tell you that he has the best speed. JB has pretty good speed. In a flat-out race between those guys, hard to take. I would probably pick Adam Eaton.
So an 0-1 count on Beckham, single to center with an RBI in the second, flat out to left, then a cold strikeout in the fifth.
One thing, Chuck, that the best speed does not guarantee you is being an excellent base stealer.
Correct.
That's technique.
Good point. The 0-1 pitch, nope, goes to first.
You're looking at a right-hand pitcher in the stretch, and a good base stealer is going to key off one of two things. He's going to key off the back leg, or he's going to key off the lead shoulder, the left shoulder. If he breaks the back leg, he has to come home. If he doesn't, it's a balk.
Here's the delivery. There's a fly ball to left field near the line. That'll do it. 6-6 ball game. We go to the bottom of the seventh here at the Rogers Center.
And schedule.
Yeah, we're going to see a number of those clubs in the ensuing days ahead. Baltimore, along with Houston and Texas.
And Houston and Baltimore are going at it tonight. It's in the top of the eighth. Houston leading 2-1 in Baltimore. And Houston looking for more. So the Astros 29-17 coming in. Baltimore 20-22. Have not quite put it all together yet.
Tolley, Reyes, and Donaldson here in the bottom of the seventh in Toronto. And we're tied at 6-9-0 for the White Sox, 6-7-2 for the Jays. There's a one bouncer. Ramirez with a quick release and scooped up nicely by Abreu.
That's a throw. You get Tolley going up the line. Need a little something on that throw, because Abreu made a nice play. And Tolley can't run. Alexi just flips it over. It's in the dirt. And fortunately, Jose was able to scoop it. But a big first out.
That's going to bring on four-time All-Star Jose Reyes. Struck out swinging the first. Fouled out in the first. Popped to third in the fifth. Again, he's just getting back. Had a double last night. His first game after cracking a rib in late April. Went 3 games to Buffalo at the International League for rehab. But he can really stretch it for the Jays, unassisted at first base for Abreu.
That's a great way to retire him. Just hit a one-hopper right at Abreu. Want to find bacon on a stick? I know I do. Track the red line trains. Interested in a seat upgrade? Download MLB.com Ballpark, the official U.S. Cellular Field Ballpark app for iPhone and Android smartphones. Visit whitesox.com/ballpark app to learn more. Bacon on a stick, Chuck. I don't know if you've ever had it, but it's outstanding.
I'll take your word for it. Thank you. Petrichka has been fabulous. As Steve Stone was mentioning, loves his makeup. Loves what he brings to the White Sox coming out of the pen. 2 out here.
Love the fact that he can throw ground balls. He's thrown 3 of them, gotten 2 strikeouts. So the Blue Jays haven't hit the ball out of the infield against Jake. Just exactly what you want out of the first man coming out of the bullpen.
1-1 count with 2 out. Now, how many innings, Steve, in a case like this, if you're Robin Venturi, do you go with him?
Well, because you have a number of games coming up without an off day, I'm thinking 2 is about where you want to go. The reason is if he goes 3, then he's lost to you for a couple of days. You got that doubleheader coming up in Baltimore. You got a quick turnaround tomorrow in a day game. So it's up to Robin and Don Cooper, but I'm thinking 2 is about where you want him.
It's a ground ball up the middle for a base hit. Donaldson just wearing out not only the Blue Jays, but every American League opponent and interleague play opponent this season again.
He's had a perfect night tonight. He's a triple shy of the cycle. He scored 3 runs, driven in 1, and now he represents a go-ahead run. One of the things you have to watch, and you don't think that Donaldson has particularly good speed, but he's 2 for 2 in stolen bases. He's not going to just steal a base to steal a base. He will steal a base when it hurts you, so you got to keep a close eye on him at first.
Abreu holding Donaldson on at first, with Batista as a back-to-back doubles in this ball game in the 3rd and 5th respectively, with 2 RBIs in the 3rd, 2 RBIs in the 5th.
Our Xfinity Speed replay is that double coming in the 5th inning, and he slices it down the line. His 3rd and 4th run driven in. A good piece of hitting, and the Speed replay is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
Talking about your go-to move, Steve, to hold a runner on. When you pitched, I mean, did you show your best pickoff move, or when did you decide to flash that over to first?
Depend on the size of the lead. Right now, Donaldson's lead is a little bit bigger. But what you're waiting for, when you see the artificial surface and the cutouts, you're waiting to see if that lead ever stretches to the front foot being on the turf. If it gets to that point, then he's starting to think about going. Only the elite base stealers, the guys with unbelievable acceleration, can steal a base without getting out with the front foot on the turf surface. As long as he's on that dirt cutout, you're in pretty good shape, especially with Donaldson.
Oh-2 pitch. Opposite way, Batista, that's going to drop in. That's a fair ball off the wall. Batista round second, going to 3rd. The Jays have taken a 7-6 lead.
Well, unfortunately, Batista continues his hot night. And this ball was missed in right field on the carom off the wall, then missed at second base with Sanchez bobbling it, and then thrown across the diamond and once again not caught. So Batista winds up at 3rd base, an inside-out swing. He's having one of those nights as this one drops in, and we'll see it hit the side wall. It bounds away from JB. Then he gets it back in, and then it bounds away from Sanchez. And he gets it back in, and it bounds away from Alexi. In the meantime, the go-ahead run scores, and Batista winds up at 3rd.
Edwin Encarnacion, who struck out 3 times tonight, with Bautista at third, all coming with 2 outs, a 1-0 count.
We figure it's going to be at least a 2-base hit. They go E4 double and a run batted in.
The fly ball to right, and that will end the inning. But the Jays have taken a 7-6 lead on the White Sox. We go to the 8th in a moment from Toronto.
Up a pair of them. Abreu's 3-run homer in the 5th inning was the big blast for the Sox. Bautista's having a huge night. 2-run double, a 2-run double, and then a 1-run double. 5 runs driven in by Bautista in this, his first game back after taking cortisone shots in his shoulder, and he has paid dividends. It's brought to you by the Honda Dream Garage Sales Event, now at your Honda dealer. As Liam Hendriks comes in, you might remember him from the Minnesota Twins. He's an Australian, signed by the Twins in 2007, and he's on for the 17th time. His ERA a tick over 3.
Flowers will lead off here in the 8th inning. He's 2 for 3 with a run scored. Sanchez scheduled up, and then followed by Adam Eaton.
Liam doesn't have a whole lot of movement on that fastball. Alexi Ramirez has touched him up. Adam Eaton is 2 for 2 against him.
As we talked about last night, even in losing cause, in this case, we still have plenty of ball to be played. 7-6. You take some positives out of this game. And in the case of Tyler Flowers, who was really struggling, Stephen, as you know, from the plate, Flowers came in with 3 for 23, but he has a couple of knocks tonight. And just like that, he strikes out. But again, 2 hits for Flowers is a bonus.
Now he's done a good job, and he's also done a good job behind the plate tonight. MLB.TV Premium allows you to watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Get real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, more. Blackout and other restrictions apply. So visit MLB.TV for details.
Sanchez sacked fly to center in the 2nd. Struck out swinging in the 4th and got hit by a pitch in the 6th. Right on the backside. Opposite way. Fair ball down the left field line. Sanchez makes the turn. Going to 2nd. And he will arrive with a stand-up double here in the top of the 8th.
He gets a fastball. We talked about the fact that Hendricks' fastball doesn't have a lot of movement. Takes it right down the line, right over the head of Donaldson. And that's a tying run now at second base.
Opportunity for Adam Eaton. Eaton hit into a fielder's choice in his last at bat. Walked in the fifth. Outside. Struck out swinging to begin the ball game in the first. Also flied out to center in the second. 7-6 Jays. We are in the eighth inning. 7-2 for the Jays. 6-10-1 for the White Sox. 1-0 count with one out. Cabrera on the on-deck circle. Called strike, 1-1. Donaldson playing very tight in at third.
We saw a bunt last night for a base hit by Bonifacio. It hit and actually backed up back toward the plate. So this is an odd surface with very high seams that we can see between the pitcher's mound and home plate.
1-2. You're right about Bonifacio, and you called it, Steve. I get to give you your eyesight a lot of credit because that ball had backspin.
And it became a tough play.
1-2, one out here in the eighth. Sox are threatening to tie it up. Jays with a 7-6 lead. Here is a base hit to right. We got to play at the plate. Safe. Nice piece of hitting.
Well, we also talked about the fact that they're going to run on Colabello every chance they get. And Adam Eaton, who is now 3 for 3 lifetime against Liam Hendricks, driving in his 5th run of the year. This is a breaking ball that stays in the zone.
He just stuck that bat out there.
He did that, and it looked. His hand just got the back of the plate. Cabrera doing what you should do, which is act as another coach. When you're in the on-deck circle, you come up, you get in the line of sight of the base runner, and then you tell him to get down, and preferably one side or the other. So a good job by Melky acting as the third coach and pointing in the right direction for Sanchez.
Cabrera's 1 for 4. We have a 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out. 2 years here as a member of the Blue Jays. He hit .299 here at the Rogers Center. In the hole, diving Reyes can't make a play, and the Sox have runners at first and third with 1 out.
Melky with his 2nd hit of the night to go with a run batted in. We talked about the fact that Reyes these days doesn't have near the range that he used to have, yet he was able to stop this ball from going to the outfield, which kept it a tie game. But with runners at the corners, a big opportunity for Jose Abreu.
In a 7-7 ball game, Abreu with a big-time 3-run bomb in the 5th inning to left field. First and third, 1 out.
Our Mazda replay came on the 2nd of 2 fastballs. Dickey had fallen behind 3-0 to a fastball that Jose took, to another fastball on the inner third, and it turned into his 8th home run, giving him now 26 driven in.
Hendricks, the 5th Toronto pitcher, giving up 3 hits and a run in a third of an inning. You've got Eaton at third. with the go-ahead run. First and third for the runners for the White Sox, with Abreu at the plate. There's a ground ball to second. Double play. And now we have a review.
And Robin is waiting to see if in fact he wants a review. Reyes is completely up in the air when he makes this throw. He's able to get it there, and Robin is saying that Abreu beat the play. There was no doubt that Encarnacion had his foot on the bag, but it looked like his foot hit the bag before the ball was in the glove, and I think that's definitive proof from that angle. You can see the ball's not in the glove yet. You can see his foot on the bag, and if that's the case, it's an 8-7 game.
Sure is.
It looks pretty much, and it looked from the naked eye like he beat the play. And right there you can see it perfectly. His foot is on the bag and that ball is not in the glove, so this one should be an easy overturn. And there it is.
I like replay.
In that case, it worked to perfection. And Jose is awfully happy because he drives in his 4th run of the night. His 27th of the year, a big night for Abreu north of the border. And the Sox have the lead late.
So the White Sox have taken an 8-7 lead here, with 2 in the top of the 8th. LaRoche at the plate. Fouled off to left. That's just great hustle by Abreu.
And I think the fact that Reyes did not have at least one leg planted didn't allow him to get near as much on the throw as he needed to get there. And it was a bang bang play. He beat it by an eyelash.
There's a sharply hit ball in the right for a base hit. It comes into third. And Abreu slides in safely. And again, the White Sox with runners at first and third. LaRoche comes through. All this happening with 2 outs down the top of the 8th, with the White Sox leading 8-7.
When the Sox have led after 7 innings, they're 12-0. When they've led after 8 innings, they're 16-0. A testament to the setup men, but also a great testament to David Robertson, as he's been lights out in the closer role.
Alexei at the plate, flied out to left in his last trip at the plate in the 7th. 8-7 ball game.
The Zacks loosening up. Putnam and Duke.
Hendricks really struggling here for the Jays. 8-7 White Sox. 2-0 count. Alexei 1 for 4 tonight. Opposite field, base hit to right. Sox played another run with Abreu coming in, and with runners at first and second. So let me ask you this, Steve. I know there are 2 outs. How long do you go with Hendricks?
Probably not much longer, because the bullpen is up and going, and Hendricks has given up 5 hits here as Alexei goes the opposite way. He drives in his 20th run of the year. That's a huge insurance run late. Here comes John Gibbons. So that's going to be it for Liam Hendriks. And as he walks out, we'll step out and be back after these messages. .142 ERA. Opponents hitting a paltry 105 against them. It's been in limited action. He's only pitched 6 1/3. He's had a lot of work on his arm. He's the guy that has a lot of hardware in that elbow. It was reconstructed. He fought his way back to the major leagues. And he comes on trailing by a pair. Sox have 2 on, 2 out. And J.B. Shuck, who's had a pretty good night, with an opportunity to add to that lead.
That's right, Steve. He has a couple of base hits, single in the second and a double in the fourth. First and second for the White Sox here with 2 out. Sox have taken a 9-7 lead in a wild ball game, folks. It's the beauty of baseball, you know, Steve. I mean, your White Sox have struggled all season long with just putting the bat on the ball. They get 9 runs here at the Rogers Center.
And so far have needed each and every one of them. Toronto scored 1 in the first. Sox came back with 2 to take the lead in the second. Toronto scored 2 in the third to take the lead. The Sox scored 3 in the fifth. Then Toronto came back with 3. The Sox came back with 1. Toronto tied it up, and the Sox have taken the lead. So this has been one of those games where, and you hope it doesn't get to that, but usually it's the last man with the last at bat that winds up doing in the opposition. But the Sox bullpen, especially late, has been better than that. So let's see if they can hold what they have.
2-1 the count. 2-2. Well, we know definitely the Jays can hit, especially with the addition now of Bautista. However, do you know, Steve, they are 4-22 and they score 4 runs or less, so they've got to put runs on the board.
And John Gibbons said that more times than not, because of a combination of things, and one of them is that bullpen, that they just have to outscore the opposition.
Here's Shuck. Roller to second. Over to first to Encarnacion. That'll end it for the White Sox. But the White Sox, with a 9-7 lead, we go to the bottom of the 8th. Stick around, folks, from Toronto.
By Robert Morris, University of Illinois, offering over 55 athletic teams, more than any other university in the state. For more information on RMU, visit robertmorris.edu. And Zach Duke comes into the ball game. It's a 2-run lead as the Sox put 3 on the board in the 8th inning, all off of Liam Hendricks. Zach 2-2, the ERA an even 3 out for the 19th time. He's been asked to save one game. He's been successful. And he's got to go through not exactly the thunder of the lineup, but a part of the lineup that's done absolutely nothing here tonight.
Now Colabello, who's at the plate, is 0 for 3. Great addition by the White Sox in the offseason, bringing in Zach Duke. Catches the outside corner. What do you like about Duke, Stephen?
I love the fact that he's able to get just about everything over the plate. He's been a durable pitcher since making the transition from a starting pitcher to a reliever. He's changed his motion. He drops down low 3/4 and sometimes sidearm, so he gives hitters a different look. And when he's right, which he's been most of the time, he's equally effective with right-handers and left-handers, which is unusual for a left-handed specialist.
In the dirt. Great illustration you just mentioned about the changing of the arm angles. And he was talking about that earlier, and he learned to do that skipping rocks on his parents' pond in Texas. Whatever it takes, you know.
They ought to send a few more left-handers to the pond then. Because it's really given him a new life on his career.
Here's the 1-2 pitch. And it drops off the wall in left field. And Colabello starts the bottom of the 8th with a stand-up double on a 1-2 pitch.
Tyler wants it inside, and Zach gets it there, but Colabello brings the hands in and gets the head of the bat on it. A couple hops against the wall and a leadoff double to start the 8th inning.
So Valencia, well, his job is just to move Colabello to third, period.
At this point, with a guy that has some power, you're getting down to the bottom part of the order. He's probably thinking about driving him home with a base hit.
Okay.
Beckham is playing toward the line and deep at third, but the outfield is playing him a couple of steps to the right of center. So the defensive charts obviously say if he hits the ball on the ground, he pulls it. If he hits it in the air, he will go the opposite way.
Big swing and a miss. White Sox erupted for 3 to take a 9-7 lead on the Jays. Pulled foul. 1-2 with nobody out here. Valencia is 0 for 3, starting in left field tonight. He had a lot of success against left-handed batters, and that's why he got the call. Left-handed pitchers, rather. So he was inserted into the lineup. 1-2.
He came in hitting over 400 against him.
Yep. Hit to third.
Again, played very well defensively, because if he does hit the ball on the ground, he will pull it. And Gordon right there to make the play. Gordon hasn't had near as many plays tonight as he had last night, but he's been equally as flawless, and takes a look over at second base before floating it to first.
That was not a good at bat for Valencia. So Kevin Pillar stepping in with 1 out here in the bottom of the 8th. Pilar is 0 for 3, flied out to left in the second, couple of ground outs, one to Danks in the fourth, grounded out to Sanchez in the sixth.
A big factor here, if you can get the next two guys out, you can escape the ninth inning without facing Bautista. And although that's not thought of very much, it certainly is thought of as far as Don Cooper is concerned. He's looking at the way this stacks up, and if they get another base runner without a double play, there's a very good chance that Bautista comes to bat in the last inning, and he's had 3 doubles and 5 driven in.
2-1.
And there's a look at Russell Martin, who is their #1 catcher. Martin got off to a slow start offensively, but he's starting to hit the baseball. He's had 2 opportunities to pinch hit. He's been successful 1 time, driving in a run. Overall, 271, 7 and 23 on the power numbers.
Inside, 3-1. Three and 2 with 1 out here. White Sox with a 9-7 lead in the bottom of the 8th.
It looks like David Robertson throwing in the bullpen. And there's a look at him. It very well be that Robin thinking about at least a 4-out save.
Pilar just hanging in there against Zach Duke. Pilar's average down to 218. Ground ball. Doubled up.
That was a real good play by Sanchez. It looked like it was going to be a routine ground ball. But when it hit the dirt, it kicked up. The fact that Carlos was in front of it meant that it didn't get by him. You always have to anticipate a bad hop by staying in front of it. So this is hit right at him, defended well, but that last hop came right up into his body, and he's able to stay with it. So Russell Martin is coming in to pinch hit. And now we'll see if Robin is going to go with Robertson or he's going to stay with Zach Duke.
He has been announced, so what do you do here, Steve?
I go with David Robertson. But we'll see what Robin decides. David now probably has a requisite amount of pitches. That's what he's waiting for. He's looking to Don Cooper to get the okay to see if he's ready. And apparently he is ready, and here comes Robin. So Russell Martin has been announced. He is coming out to pinch hit. Robin is taking the long, slow walk out because he wants David to get a few more pitches to loosen up. And here comes Paul Emmel, the home plate umpire. One way or the other, he wants to break this up.
Yeah, for Paul Emmel, that's his second trip saying, okay, what are we doing here? And the sign goes to the bullpen.
So here comes David Robertson. And Zach Duke will walk off. Robertson will trot in. We'll step away and be back after these messages. He's 3-0. His ERA under 1. On for the 19th time. He's been called on 10 times to save a game, and 9 times he's been successful. Opponent's hitting just 152. The big number, 29 strikeouts and 2 walks in 18 1/3 innings.
That's impressive.
David has not only great stuff, but a certain amount of deception that hitters will tell you for whatever reason. On many pitchers, they can pick up the ball maybe 59 feet, maybe 58 feet. For David Robertson, they can't pick up the ball till 55 or 54 feet when he releases it. And that gives him, on a 93 or 94 mile an hour fastball, gives him another 3 or 4 inches.
2 outs, and the Jays with a runner at third. Outside, 1-0 on the count to Russell Martin.
We're going to see him tomorrow in a starting role, but he's getting an opportunity to pinch hit for the 3rd time. We told you he was 1 for 2 with a run batted in as a pinch hitter.
Cold strike. Russell Martin, the face of this franchise. The Canadian by birth here in Toronto. One and two.
Justin Smoke, who hit a home run last night, is in the on-deck circle. You just as soon have to worry about him in the 9th inning.
Here's the 1-2 pitch. Ground ball to second. Sanchez to Abreu, and the inning is over. Beautiful job by David Robertson. We go to the 9th. Stick around, folks. White Sox with a 9-7 lead.
Sox debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/White Sox to learn more. Wintrust Community Bank, member FDIC. Ezekiel Carrera checks in the game in left field, and that's going to shift Danny Valencia to second base as Goins departed for a pinch hitter, and that was Russell Martin.
There's a fly ball to left field, and Beckham is retired. Here in the top of the 9th inning, 9-7 White Sox trying to hang on. Tyler Flowers put together a nice ball game, as Steve Stone mentioned, not only offensively but also beyond the plate.
I thought he's handled the pitching staff very well. He's gotten a couple of base hits. One of them turned into a run scored as his leadoff double in the 6th inning came home at the time to tie the game.
Delabar, the 6th pitcher, stays in the ball game. Came on in the 8th inning. Series finale tomorrow afternoon. Then it's off to Baltimore. 1-1 count. Sox trying to end a 3-game slide. Sox started the ball game 19-23, 8 out behind Kansas City in the American League Central.
And heading on this long, tough road trip, it's a pleasure to see the offense come to life.
Very much so.
This is a road trip where you're facing some teams who've been playing pretty decent baseball, and those that haven't have been scoring. So you're going to have to tune up the offense, and it certainly has been tuned up tonight.
And see, this what obviously you're not going to get 9 runs every night, but this is what Sox fans are hoping for, is a glimmer and array of hope as far as the offense coming around.
Well, if you take a look at the lineup and just get every one of these hitters back to their career average, you'll realize there's a lot of room to score many more runs. And if they can start to put that together, it's going to take a lot of pressure off the defense and the pitching staff.
Flowers strikes out for the 2nd time of the ball game. With 2 outs to bring on Sanchez. Sanchez with a sac fly to center in the 2nd. Lazy fly ball to left field. Carrera makes the catch, and we go to the bottom of the 9th. So can the White Sox hold on and end this losing streak? Sox 9, Jays 7 from Toronto.
A harmless 4-3 has got 3 more outs to try to put to bed the 3-game losing streak.
Tolley at the plate. Started as a catcher for R.A. Dickey. A couple of base hits in this ball game. He takes a cold strike one. 9-14-1 for the White Sox. 7-10-2 for the Jays. Robertson. Tolley finds himself 0-2. What makes Robertson so effective?
The deception. Because you look at the fastball, it's not overwhelming, and yet it just sneaks up on too many hitters. Plus, because of his delivery, and bear in mind, he spent a lot of time in the bullpen with Mariano Rivera, his fastball looks like a cutter.
It's a base hit to right.
And that time, that curveball was right down the middle of the plate. And Tolley, who doesn't play very often, is 3 for 4 tonight. He's way ahead, and this curveball is splitting the middle of the plate. Josh Tolley takes it into right field. So he's had probably his best night of the year.
One would think he came in at 111, Steve. Reyes, the tying run at the plate, nobody out. Reyes is 0 for 4. That pitch catches the inside corner.
We talked about if you retire Russell Martin, you can get out of this inning 1-2-3 without facing Bautista. Now it'll take a double play for that to happen.
Reyes' only hit of the series, again giving him some leeway because he just came back from a fractured rib. His only hit of the series was the leadoff double yesterday in the first. He's 1 of 8 in the series. 1-1 count, nobody out. Jays with a runner at first. And that's hit down the right field line. That's headed for the corner. And the Jays have something going here with nobody out. Second and third. Reyes delivers.
His first hit of the night. And this fastball down the middle, and Reyes drives it into the corner. Tolley has to go down that vicious line drive, almost taking his head with it into the corner. So the tying runs at second and third, and nobody out.
Robin Ventura making a slow walk to the mound. Now you've got a red-hot hitter in Donaldson. He's 3 for 3, scored 4 runs. He homered in this ball game. So Steve, the wheels are turning. What do you do?
Well, what he's telling him now, and I think what he's telling the infield is, don't worry about Tolley at third base. That's not the man we have to worry about. We've got to worry about Reyes at second. And I would believe that he's going to play the infield, if not all the way back far enough to try to stay out of the big inning. Conceding the run at third, but making sure, and he reminded everybody in the infield, on a ground ball, dive to knock it down. You've got to keep it in the infield.
White Sox 9, Jays 7. Nobody out. Runners at second and third. Tolley at third, Reyes at second. And the White Sox defensively are playing just that, Steve. Good call. Here's the 1-0 pitch from Robertson. Swing and a miss. 1-1. Steve, do you think Donaldson right now, all he's thinking about, I want to jack this out of the ballpark?
No. He is thinking about making good solid contact. At the very least, he wants to get 1 in and 1 over. But he's thinking about some contact against Robertson. Because if he's thinking about hitting the ball out of the ballpark, not that he can't, but if he's thinking about it, probably turns into a strikeout, and he knows he can't afford that.
Robertson with a long look in the flowers. Here is the 1-1 pitch. in the ninth. Swung on. A fly ball deep to right field. And that ball is over the fence, a home run, and Donaldson has won the ball game here in Toronto with a 3-run homer off Robertson. My goodness.
His second home run of the night. His fourth hit to go with a walk. He scored 5 runs, including the game winner. As trying to take the ball the opposite way for him turns into gold. And the Toronto Blue Jays have been able to come all the way back and win a ball game in dramatic fashion. And unfortunately, David Robertson, who had only blown 1 save, cannot get anybody out in the ninth. The hero of the night, Josh Donaldson. And that, folks, is a crusher.
Just a deflating loss for the White Sox.
David was what they call wild in the strike zone. He threw pitches down the middle of the plate to all 3 hitters. The final one going opposite field. What a night for Josh Donaldson.
All right, so we're going to return in a moment as the Toronto Blue Jays, with 3 in the bottom of the ninth on a Donaldson homer, and they beat the White Sox 10-9. We'll return in a moment.